Las Vegas celebrity known affectionately as the Old Man on the television show Pawn Stars. Today, 77-year-old Richard Harrison was laid to rest.
The Old Man left behind one final surprise that no one would have even guessed. After Richard Benjamin Harrison passed away, attention turned to what had been sitting inside his garage for years. What people found wasn't what anyone expected. What was really hiding behind those garage doors?
Affectionately known though as the Old Man on the hit show Pawn Stars. His passing announced on Monday, and for most this goodbye looms heavy.
And what forgotten treasures were worth far more than anyone imagined? Join us as we uncover the unbelievable garage discoveries that shocked the world. The garage and what lived in it. One of the things most people who watched Pawn Stars didn't fully appreciate about Richard Harrison was the depth of his passion for old cars. Not just professionally, or just because the pawn shop dealt in vehicles, attachments to automobiles that went beyond anything rational. By the time Pawn Stars had made him nationally famous, Richard owned a car collection that would make a serious automotive enthusiast stop and stare. A 1963 Chrysler Imperial four-door, a 1966 Imperial convertible, a 1962 Cadillac Sedan DeVille, a 1957 Chevrolet 150, a 1955 Ford F-100 pickup with a Corvette engine under the hood, a 1937 Oldsmobile. They were all kept in his garage, and he drove them. He took them out once a week or once every 10 days, making sure He described his 1966 Imperial Crown as the car he had wanted his entire adult life. He had spotted it years before he ever had the money to pursue it seriously, tracked down the owner, and spent 15 years convincing that person to sell. 15 years. He didn't give up and find another car. He waited, stayed in contact, and kept asking because he wanted that specific car and no other. When he finally got it, his son Rick and his grandson Corey had the car completely restored as a gift for his 50th wedding anniversary and Joanne's 50th. The 1957 Chevy 150 that sat in his garage had its own story. The casts of 3 different History Channel shows, American Restoration, Piece of Americana, had been made just by looking at it. The blandness of modern automotive design was a kind of cultural poverty. When Richard died in June 2018, those cars were sitting in that garage. But the cars, extraordinary as they were, turned out not to be the thing that shocked people when they went through what Richard Harrison had left behind. The will that nobody saw coming was lending out roughly $3 million per year, generating approximately $700,000 in interest income alone. The television show, launched in 2009 and the highest-rated program on the History Channel, added a revenue stream that dwarfed anything the shop had ever generated on its own. All of that accumulated wealth needed to go somewhere after Richard died, and everyone assumed they knew where. His wife Joanne, his 3 sons, Joseph, Rick, and Christopher. The people he had spent his life building things with and for. That changed a person permanently when his daughter Sherry died at 6 years old. He had experienced financial devastation significant enough to leave a family of 5 with nothing but $5,000 and the decision to start over in a desert city. He had built something from that wreckage that lasted for decades, and he had done it through a combination of stubbornness, intelligence, and the willingness to do whatever work was available regardless of how unglamorous it was. The relationship between Richard and his 3 sons was not equally close, and it never had been. Rick was the son who had worked in the shop from his teenage years, who had hustled alongside his father to keep the business alive in the early days before it was profitable, who had first conceived the idea of turning the pawn shop into a television show and spent 4 years pitching it to networks that kept saying no before finally getting the yes that changed everything. Rick was the partner. Joseph had his own life, separate from the Las Vegas enterprise. And Christopher, the one nobody had seen in decades, had apparently put enough distance between himself and the family that whatever had happened between them stayed entirely private. When Richard cut Christopher out of the will in 2017, he was sick. The Parkinson's disease that would kill him within the year was already in full control of his body. He retired from Pawn Stars in 2017, as his condition made it impossible to continue, stepping back from the show after years as its anchor. The decision about his will came during that same period, when a man knows he is approaching the end and needs to finalize the arrangements he will leave behind. He made the choice to cut Christopher with the same deliberateness he had brought to every significant decision of his adult life. What remains unknown, and what will likely remain unknown, is the reason for that decision. What the public was left with was the shape of the decision without context, which created its own story. The lawsuit that came after. The aftermath of Richard Harrison's death was not limited to the will and its shocking exclusion. By 2022, 4 years after he died, the estate had become the subject of active legal conflict within the family itself. Richard Harrison's widow, Joanne, had filed a lawsuit against her own son, Rick, over assets connected to the gold and silver pawn shop and the Harrison family estate. The dispute, reported by multiple outlets, centered on questions about the shop's ownership and the distribution of the family assets Richard had accumulated over his life. The legal claims in the suit revealed the broader tensions that arise when a family business of significant value passes from one generation to another, and the patriarch who had served as the organizing center of that business is suddenly gone. This was the same shop that Richard and Rick had a choice, but to sue her son to protect her interests, which was the other side of the same achievement. And through all of it, the will, the lawsuit, the cars sitting in the garage, and the son who was cut out without explanation, the pawn shop itself kept running. Let's uncover just how well it's going. What the old man built and what it became. When Richard Harrison died on June 25, 2018, the History Channel aired a commemorative episode 2 days later titled A Treasure Remembered, built around clips from the show and interviews with people who had known him. Within 10 weeks of its original premiere in 2009, Pawn Stars had become the highest-rated program in the network's history, second in the reality television rankings only to Jersey Shore at the time. It aired in 150 countries. By 2011, it was drawing 7 million viewers per episode. Richard had sat at the heart of that cultural phenomenon from the beginning, the anchor who gave the show its multi-generational story and its sense that the pawn business was something with genuine history and genuine weight behind it. He had been nominated for the 2012 Time 100 list alongside Rick. Clark County had declared a Pawn Stars Day in July 2012. He had donated $1,000 to the Clark County Museum. He was, in the final years of his life, a figure of genuine civic standing in Las Vegas. A man who had arrived with nothing and built something the city claimed as part of its identity. The pawn shop itself survived his death and continued operating as the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop under Rick's leadership, pulling in an estimated $10 million annually in revenue. The show continued for additional seasons after Richard's death, though the family and the fan base alike consistently acknowledged that the show was never quite the same without him behind the counter. What Richard left behind in that garage, the Imperials, the Chevrolet, the Cadillac, the Ford pickup with the Corvette engine, represented the personal side of a life that the television cameras had only partially captured. He had been a Mopar man since his youth, had owned a 19 that spent his whole career surrounded by rare objects, and who had the specific knowledge to know exactly what was worth keeping. The old man earned his nickname at 38 years old, which was unusually young for such a designation. But the people who knew him understood that it fit, because Richard Harrison had never been young in the way most people are young, careless, optimistic, and unbothered by the weight of what could go wrong. He had been shaped by real losses too early and real responsibilities too constantly to ever fully inhabit the lightness of youth. He was always already the old man, even when he was just a young Navy sailor starting a family and planning for. What surprises you most about what Richard Harrison left behind? And do you think he owed his family an explanation for what he wrote in that will? Or was the decision entirely his to make? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.